This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
I'm Roby Brock. Welcome to today's edition of Talk Business and Politics. It's Thursday, October 27th. Here are your top stories of the day. Issue 7, the Medical Cannabis Act, has been booted from the ballot by the Arkansas Supreme Court. In a 5-2 decision made Thursday, the state's high court ruled there were an insufficient number of signatures to qualify. Supporters say they will petition for rehearing, but it's unlikely the court will reverse its call. A different medical marijuana proposal, Issue 6, has survived legal challenges and will remain on the ballot. Johnny Cash's childhood home in Mississippi County is boosting the local tourism economy, according to officials. Cash, who grew up in the Dias Colony in northeast Arkansas, has a boyhood home that's still standing and has been restored. With nearby Memphis being the home to contemporary Elvis Presley, up to 700 visitors a month are making the trek across the Mississippi River to Cash's childhood home. Read more on this story at talkbusiness.net. The U.S. Marshals Museum, slated for Fort Smith, today announced it will open its doors on September 24th, 2019. That will coincide with the 230th anniversary of the U.S. Marshals Service. The 50,000-square-foot state-of-the-art facility will honor the importance of the U.S. Marshals Service, the group that is spearheading the efforts making its way towards a $60 million fundraising goal. El Dorado-based Murphy Oil reported a third-quarter loss of $16.2 million, which was much better than its $1.5 billion loss a year ago. Despite the loss for the quarter, Murphy Oil still beat Wall Street estimates. And you can keep up with those stories each and every day at our website at talkbusiness.net. A word from our sponsors, and we'll run through some of our latest poll numbers from Talk Business and Politics. Mike Ross, yes, the former congressman and gubernatorial candidate. He shares some big news from his current job, plus an excerpt from our recent roundtable discussion on medical marijuana. This is Talk Business and Politics.
First Security is here. Only here. So that means we're here, here, and here. Even here. And definitely here. Because here is where we want to be for you. First Security Bank. Only in Arkansas.
At Deltic Timber Corporation, we believe in the responsible creation of communities, in the development of neighborhoods that bring convenience and comfort to life, while respecting the beauty and delicacy of nature. Like the harmonious balance of environment and expansion found in the thriving communities of Chenal Valley and Chenal Downs in Little Rock and Red Oak Ridge in Hot Springs. Because the best communities in the natural state are the ones that help keep it that way.
In case you missed all of the polling results that we rolled out over the past few days, we thought we'd put them all in one easy-to-find place for you. So here's the roundup. In the presidential race, 32.5% for Democrat Hillary Clinton, 56% for Republican Donald Trump, 3.5% Libertarian Gary Johnson, 2% Green Party candidate Jill Stein, 1% other, and that leaves 5% undecided. In the U.S. Senate race, 52% for Republican incumbent Senator John Boozman, 34% for his Democratic challenger Connor Eldridge. The Libertarian candidate Frank Gilbert at 4%, 2% picking someone else, they don't know who, and 8% still undecided in that race. Issue 2, which would allow the governor to keep his powers and duties if he crosses state lines. Arkansans are 52% in favor of this constitutional amendment proposal, 23.5% against, 24.5%, almost a quarter, don't know. Issue 3, which would remove the cap for bonds for economic projects and allow governments to contract with private entities for economic development, 35% for, 30% against, and a whopping 35% undecided at this point. Medical marijuana, the amendment, 45% of Arkansas voters likely to vote for this issue. 50% say they will vote against this issue. At least 5% undecided, a very small undecided block there. And you can catch analysis of all these measures and horse races on our website at talkbusiness.net. When we come back, what has Mike Ross been up to since 2014? The former congressman and one-time challenger for governor shares, plus more on the medical marijuana debate. We're back after this.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.
I did.
Circuits turn on the lights by making a connection, by closing the loop. At Entergy, we believe our economy is circular too. What you put in comes back. So we invest billions in new infrastructure, which helps attract new industry, which helps create new jobs. We partner with local communities to electrify the economy. And together, we power life. Entergy.
Former Congressman Mike Ross is currently Senior Vice President for Governmental Affairs for Regional Electricity Transmission Operator Southwest Power Pool, also known as SPP. As fate would have it, this week is the 75th anniversary of the power transmission company that's headquartered here in Little Rock. Ross tells me what's significant about SPP and what the future holds in store.
Well, Southwest Power Pool has been based right here in Little Rock, Arkansas since December 16th, 1941. We're a product really of World War II. As World War II was ramping up, President Roosevelt, he had a goal of building 50,000 planes a year to support the war, which required a massive amount of aluminum, bauxite. The largest deposits of bauxite in America were right here in Arkansas. So the government literally built an aluminum factory that became known as Jones Mill. And about the time they completed the factory, they had an uh-oh moment where they realized they needed more power to run that mill than was available in 1941 for the entire state of Arkansas. And so literally 9 days after the bombing at Pearl Harbor, Southwest Power Pool was created, was formed. We're a nonprofit organization, and as major events have occurred in our nation in the last 75 years, our responsibilities, our authority has grown significantly with the blackout back in the 60s and the one in 2003 to where we are today. And today we manage the electric grid, we operate the wholesale electric market, and we plan transmission for all or part of 14 states. And we do all that from right here in Little Rock, Arkansas, where we have about 600 employees. And so it's a very we're part of America's critical infrastructure. To me, it's an extension of public service. We're a nonprofit. We're designated by FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. But we're also a very important part of the Little Rock and Central Arkansas economy, putting 600 people to work. And a lot of those are IT and engineering professionals, good paying jobs. And we're just proud to be part of the economy right here in Arkansas.
That's former Congressman Mike Ross, now Senior Vice President for Governmental Affairs for Regional Electricity Transmission Operator Southwest Power Pool in Little Rock. When we come back, what happens when two surgeon generals square off on opposite sides of the medical marijuana debate? Stick around to see.
As Arkansas's population grows, so do our energy demands. But with the right mix of resources, reliable, affordable power will always be a reality. These resources are all around us in our rivers, blowing through our trees, even right below our feet. The answer isn't focusing on one resource, it's embracing them all. The electric cooperatives of Arkansas know that a balanced approach to power builds our communities and powers our dreams. Visit themixmatters.com and see why there's power in knowledge.
You've likely heard of the Great Arkansas Treasure Hunt. In fact, you or your business may have property to claim in the hunt. But where does this treasure come from? Businesses like yours. The law calls it unclaimed property. If your business is holding money on its books that you've not been able to return to the owner, it's most likely unclaimed property, and the law requires it to be sent to the state auditor's office each year. Auditor Andrea Lee's office can make the process for businesses to comply with the law easy and straightforward. Help us help you return Arkansans' unclaimed property at auditor.ar.gov.
Well, last week our content partner KATV Channel 7 hosted a 1-hour Facebook Live session to discuss the topic of medical marijuana, which, as you know, will be on the ballot this November. Former U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Joycelyn Elders and current Arkansas Surgeon General Dr. Greg Bledsoe took their seats at the roundtable.
In the larger public health community, when it comes to the debate over medical marijuana, what is really at the heart of the debate? Is it safety? Is it efficacy? What is it, Dr. Elders?
Well, I'm not sure I would know absolutely. I think that certainly we know that there are certain patients that have definite benefits. As far as safety, we use lots of other drugs that are far more toxic for the patient, more poisonous. The one thing we can say about marijuana, it's never killed anybody that we can document. We look at alcohol, and we look even at tobacco. These are drugs to me that are far more toxic and cause far more deaths. So I don't think we can throw it up as a safety issue.
Dr. Bledsoe?
Well, I think there's a couple of camps when you look at people who are involved in public health. There's two extremes. There's one extreme that says that marijuana has no medicinal value under any circumstances. That's not my position. Obviously, that's not Dr. Elder's position, and that's not the position of the majority of people who are in healthcare. The other extreme is that marijuana is a miracle drug, that it does everything, it cures everything. That's also an extreme position and not something that the majority of healthcare providers are in favor of. In the middle is where most people are. And I've found that when you talk to healthcare professionals and you say medical marijuana in general, a lot of people are in favor of it. The details really matter, and that's why I think that this debate and this forum tonight is so important, because the details, when you talk about the laws, that's where healthcare professionals start to step away from that medical marijuana definition and say, I'm not sure I'm in favor of that. So if you go into a crowd of physicians and you say, hey, are you in favor of medical marijuana? A lot will say yes. And then you say, are you in favor of 15-year-olds with ADHD getting marijuana to vape or to ingest? Not so much. So the specifics really matter, and that's where you start having the divergence.
So you believe that marijuana can ease severe symptoms. If the FDA,
sure.
If the FDA were on board, would you be on board with this?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, there's a pharmaceutical company in Britain, GW Pharmaceuticals, that has produced two other marijuana-based pharmaceuticals, Sativex and Epidiolex, and both of these are going to be coming probably through the FDA approval process and approved in the next year or so. And that's how it should be done. We should be squeezing all the medicinal value out of this plant. We should be purifying these compounds, isolating them, and then dosing them appropriately for patients. I don't think any reputable physician or clinician is against that. We want to help our patients. My argument is that when you hand out the plant, that you can't control the dosing, you don't know exactly if it's efficacious or not, if it actually works, and you worry about impurities and whether or not you're giving it for the right diagnosis. So there's so many things that go into that. But using those compounds, isolating them, purifying them, and then giving it to patients, that's the way it should be done. I'm all in favor of that.
Are you worried about that, about the inability to control the dosage, no prescriptions?
I think, we've not done the research on marijuana that we should have done. We've had it for years. We've known about it, and because of marijuana, and nobody wanted to do the research. They couldn't get in the purified form, or couldn't get it, excuse me, in the form to do the kind of research they wanted to do. So I think now the NIH and the health system is trying to do the kind of research now that we should have done 100 years ago.
Right. So in the absence of that, we find ourselves where we are now. Governor Hutchinson opposes both of the measures that are on the ballot. He said the measures don't lead to good medicine, and he says, quote, we don't vote on cancer cures in our society, and we should not set a new pattern of determining what is good medicine at the ballot box. Dr. Elders, does putting medicine up for a vote give you pause at all?
I really think the best doctor for any patient is the doctor that's looking at that patient and the doctor that makes the decision. But when we're talking about medical marijuana, you're talking about a doctor who has made the decision that this is the best medicine that I have available for my patient. And I think that when we're out there trying to decide what this doctor should order, I think that that's trying to legislate how we practice medicine. Sure, we all wish that we'd done the research. We all wish that we had the better drugs. You know, none of us are proud of some of the drugs that we have for many of the symptoms we have. But I think that what we're doing, you know, making it available for the patients that really need it and whose doctors want to order it. I think that's the best we can do today.
Is this standing between a doctor and their patient?
Well, I don't think so. And I look at this again as the general theoretical debate versus the specifics. I mean, when you look at who has actually endorsed Issue 6 and Issue 7, there aren't very many healthcare professionals. I read out earlier a long list of people who've opposed it. Dr. Elders has not endorsed either of those. To my knowledge, other than Melissa, no candidate for any office in Arkansas has endorsed Issue 6 or Issue 7. So when you look at the specifics, that's what the voters need to look at, the specifics of all that. And I think, you know, when you talk about doctors and their relationship with patients, that's a very sacred bond that you have. But still, the treatments that we're giving our patients should be based on the medical literature. And when you look at the medical literature, it does say that the compounds in certain cases do help. But all these broad diagnoses that are especially in Melissa's issue, there's no medical literature to support those.
That's former U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Joycelyn Elders and current Arkansas Surgeon General Dr. Greg Bledsoe discussing the issue of medical marijuana, which will be on the Arkansas ballot this year. There's more to their conversation, as well as commentary and opinion from Melissa Fultz with Arkansans for Compassionate Care and Kirk Lane with the Association of Chiefs of Police. All told, that's a 1-hour conversation. You can find it at KATV.com. That's all for today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Brock. Until next time, take care.